Hi, my name's Christian Henson. I'm a film, TV and computer games composer. I've been doing it for about 25 years now, professionally. I went to a dodgy, rough inner city school, didn't really get my head round reading music, and certainly didn't go to music college. So my theoretical knowledge is somewhat challenged, but I made a go of it, and that go has become a career. So what I'm trying to do with this channel is to demystify what it takes to make orchestral, film, television, computer games music, and hopefully encourage you one day to work with live musicians. This is part of a whole sequence of strings tutorials for people of all different levels within their journey. The great thing about music is every day's a school day and we all learn from each other regardless of how long we've been busking away. So there's a debate raging about these controllers and how people use them, how people program in their all-important expression data. It renders half of your compositional output obsolete by having to twiddle this around whilst writing with one hand, and then what happens when you go to your left hand? Well, the fact of the matter is, I'm a big ensembles user and have no problems writing with both hands and then entering that data afterwards. And I thought I'd do a little tutorial about it because I can nest into that a bit of scary, something that we're all scared of and absolutely shouldn't be. I'll get there in a minute. So I'm just going to write something freehand with both my hands. I'm going to set a nominal level there that I'm happy with. I'm using Glass Strings, Crow Hill, which I've been involved with making, but this isn't an advert for that. This will work with any string library that the leading developers make. I'm using a thing called Freebow, which unlike other string libraries will have artifacts and you'll hear rebowing that I'm not in control of. But that's the way I like it. Unexpected. It's like we've captured a performance in these samples, which then I'm reacting with, as well as writing something that is truly my own. So I'm going to stick it into record. There's no click running, just going to do this completely free. I didn't like. Now, one of the really good things about playing stuff in live with both your hands is it limits the number of voices you're likely to play with. As mentioned in a previous video linked down below, basically strings are organized into really 4 voices. You've got your violins, your first violins, your second violins, your violas and your cellos, which also conveniently fits into your sopranos, altos, tenors and basses. the human voice range, which really forms the whole basis of harmonic language within Western music. By limiting yourself to 4 voices and then maybe adding a 5th for your double basses, your contrabass, your counterbass, you're going to inevitably make music that sounds stringy. The minute you start going it'll start sounding synthy, pianistic, which is not really the way that strings play. They play like individual voices. So something I could do immediately, where creating a series of expression curves to make this really flourish and flow and be more expressive, is to use expression CC11 here and modulation CC1 here. If we have a look at what these control, that controls timbre, which is really associated with volume or bow pressure. Whereas expression is really like a gain stage. I think with both, though, you get the real gamut of the dynamism of strings. Now, what I could do is simply overdub a controller pass. All well and good. But I think a more effective way of getting a really realistic feel to your string samples, even if you're using an ensembles patch like this, is to voice them. The scary word, which just shouldn't be scary at all. Sopranos, altos, tenors, basses, firsts, seconds, violas, cellos. And they have a very simple rule. One that if you break it, it's absolutely fine, but if you are working with live musicians, they'll actually hold their hands up and go, is this correct? And that rule is they all stay in that order. The second violins never go above the firsts, the violas never go below the cellos, making voicing just remarkably simple. So what I'm going to do is change this from free bow to V1, V2, VA, which is short for viola, and VC, which is violoncello, which is the full name of the cello, just like the piano is actually called a pianoforte. And I'm just going to copy these across. And then it's simply a matter, let's get rid of you, and you'll see that I've used the sustain pedal there because you've got a lot of notes that aren't connected. We simply need to find the top notes for the first. So it's quite easy. If there's any notes below, you just get rid of those. And then we've got the next one down. So any notes above, just delete that. And then do the same as you did with the firsts, which is any notes below, get rid of those. And then for the viola, we notice there's only 2 voices here. So we're going to bring the violas in at this point here. And anything above, see there's 1, 2, 3, so that's the viola part there, and anything below. And finally the cello part, which we will bring in at this point. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. Don't need any of that. Anything above goes. This should sound exactly the same. Now, something that I notice here is we're really losing the melody there. Now, often composers will maybe switch to a legato transition. I'm not a fan of those. I think that with particular string libraries, you should be able to articulate those melodic lines without giving the game away. So what I'm going to do is start by simply overdubbing the controller data for the first violins and listen out for those lines, those passing notes here, the passing notes here, and really kind of pushing those through. Great, so that's first done. Now I'm going to balance the seconds. And actually, I think I'm going to just mute off the other two. So we really have some kind of relationship between the first and second. And you'll see now immediately that we've voiced this stuff off, that these things actually look like melodic lines, not just bunches of chords. So let's have a go at this one. Great, let's add in the next. And again, you'll see that every note has a little wave to it, which is how the players would play it, even if you gave them no phrasing whatsoever. But where we have those independent notes moving on their own, we really want to give them some weight so you can hear them. Got a couple here, one here. Again, I'll push those through. That was nice. However, I feel that that dissonant, crunchy note there was probably just a little bit heavy. So I'm going to just push that back a bit. Let's bring the cello in. And because we've got the cello on its own, I'm going to stick on the bass for that, and it'll give us a bass an octave down. Drawing these up a bit more, force legato, a tiny little bit of overlap. As always with these types of part, it's very difficult to get these believable, but what you've done here inadvertently is voice this all up for a band, which means I could take any of those voices, re-record them, or overlay a string player on top, whether that be here in this corner or remotely. And that's what I'm going to do in a video in the very near future. So if you haven't subscribed, please do, and ding that bell to be notified the next time I put a video up. I think one of the greatest joys of working as a composer is to work with musicians, and any opportunity that you have shouldn't be passed up. So in the next video, where I'll actually record a musician, maybe playing this, maybe playing some other bits, I'm going to take you through a totally fearless way of working with live musicians, even if, like me, you can't read music and haven't studied music theory. And hats off to anyone who can, who may also find it interesting to see how I separate stuff and spit it out of my computer so I can communicate my sonic vision with the person that I'm, or people that I'm collaborating with. Anyway, as always with these tutorials, if I have some kind of artifact out of it, I'll load it into our hub. All of the details of how to grab this Logic file, I'll also make you a MIDI file, will be linked in the video description down below. I do read the comments, so if you have any questions, I'll do my darndest to answer them. Until next time, well, all that's left to say is thanks for staying till the very end, and see you very soon.